Let's get you to Rob Parker. Inside the Parker is the podcast, focuses on baseball. Of course, The Odd Couple is the radio show, which you can hear on Fox Sports Radio at 7 Eastern to 10 Pacific, all the way to 10 Eastern time. Rob, let's start with the MLBPA. Tony Clark is saying, what's your phrase? No way, no how. We're not signing a salary cap. He does know that a rev split is not a salary cap, right?
I would hope so. I get the union. My God, like they've been in it with the owners for a long time, and they're not going to give up all the sacrifices. Remember, they lost the World Series over the union. You know what I mean? Over negotiations and bad dealings with the owners. So I get why that they're going to be a little hesitant and not just jump at anything that's presented to them, Doug. But there's got to be a give and take. This is all different, and I just don't expect. I don't know what they're expecting when you're not going to have fans, you're not going to have parking money, you're not going to have concessions money. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be stripped down if we even get to play baseball. So I'm a little surprised that. Here we are again, but then again, this has been the history of ownership and players. They don't trust each other.
Well, I think it's also fascinating. You look at what the NBA is doing, where they're giving, the NBA guys are going to vote. Like, hey, you know what? Let's not go by Twitter polls. Let's just figure out who wants to play and who doesn't want to play. My guess would be far more guys want to play than don't want to play.
I'm not so sure about that. When you think about, Doug, that most of the guys have gotten paid, right, through April 15th through the regular season. They've been paid for the year. You only get money after the playoff run, depending on where you wind up. So a lot of guys have already been cashed out for this year. If you're one of the 14 bad teams or teams not making the playoffs, or even a couple of the also-rans that really aren't going to be able to make a run, do you really want to restart the year to play out 10 games? Or I don't know what the incentive is or where you are. If you're LeBron James, Doug, you want to play. You don't want to waste this year. You don't know what next year brings in year 18. You don't know if AD and the team that played so well this year is going to play that well next year. And Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, they're not old. They'll be ready. They'll be healthy. They were not healthy this year. So if I'm LeBron, I want to play. I'm not so sure everybody else wants to play.
I would agree. I mean, part of it is they make so much money, and the thought is that, while we take a haircut now, it'll elongate our careers, and we'll be able to make all that money starting next year. Doug Gottlieb Show, Fox Sports Radio. Rob Parker is our guest. What's your takeaway so far from The Last Dance?
I was covering the NBA during that time, Doug, so I was there for Jordan's shot. I was sitting courtside for his shot against Craig Elo. I was sitting courtside for Scottie Pippen's migraine game. I was in the Chicago Stadium many Memorial Day Mondays, for big playoff games in Chicago. So I was really around the NBA, and that was my main focus. So a lot of the stuff I knew. I love all the footage and behind-the-scenes stuff that, I had never seen, and it was interesting to see those guys just be themselves, even though cameras were rolling, because most people do react differently when they know a camera's running compared to when it's not. So that's the stuff that surprised me. The Isiah stuff is over the top now, and everybody coming out of the woodworks bashing him. Even the Admiral jumped in and had to get his 2 cents in. Doug, was Isiah the nicest guy or a perfect citizen? Absolutely not. You know basketball. How in the world is Isiah not on that team if you're going by talent? And I think,
but you're going to spend a month around guys. It's not just around talent, Rob. Like the way the story's told in the in the show, it's like, well, it was just about Jordan. That was part of it. That was part of it. It was also, what he said about Larry Bird, what he apparently said about Magic. Magic Johnson was his best friend. Look, Chuck Daly was the coach. Okay?
Doug, you don't believe anybody stopped him from being on that team other than Michael Jordan. I don't buy for 1 second. Michael Jordan, the story I was told, was fax the roster of that team. He was the one holding out saying whether or not he was going to play. Isiah was on the original roster that was faxed to Michael Jordan. Michael said, I'm not playing. Then they revised the roster, took him off, and Michael said, okay, I'm playing. That's the story I've always been told through NBA circles. It might be wrong, but Michael is the reason. Michael is the reason that he didn't play on that team, and you know it.
No, I would say he's a reason, but I also don't think it's just the handshake. It was the freeze out when he was the rookie. It was the way in which they tried to beat him up on his way up, and then it did coincide. But I would say this: look, Chuck Daly let it happen. Chuck Daly's his coach, won 2 championships with him. He let it happen.
I agree, but Jack McCloskey was the general manager of the Dream Team. Do you remember what he did, Doug? What did he do? Jack McCloskey. He quit. He quit as GM of the Dream Team because of what they were going to do to Isiah. So Chuck could have done something. Those other guys could have done something. What they did is they cheated Isiah from an honor that you can never get back, and they also cheated basketball fans. And I don't want to hear about no damn chemistry. That's BS. To beat Angola by 70 points?
It's not BS. It's not BS.
It is BS. They could have beaten the Washington Generals.
I know they could have.
Teams they played.
I understand they could have. The other teams could have beaten them. That's actually more the point. The point was look, if you want Jordan, if you want Magic, look, Magic was his best friend. He didn't stand up for him. Right? Magic could. You know what? You're not gonna take Isiah? I'm gonna go. He didn't. Well, what does that tell you? It's because, dude, Isiah was a bad guy, Rob. He was a bad guy. Everybody knows he was a bad guy. What?
There's a lot of bad guys out there.
No.
Wait a minute. Chuck Daly was the coach. Chuck Daly coached the bad boys. It was okay. He got a pass. Chuck
Daly didn't say that Magic Johnson was gay when he contracted HIV, did he? He's the best friend of Magic Johnson. He tells people that he thinks Magic might be gay. That's how he got HIV. That's different than Chuck Daly coaching the bad boys. Okay? He was a bad guy. And I don't see bad guy in terms of as a basketball player. He was the one who had to go on national TV and apologize because he said if Larry Bird was black, he'd just be an average player. That's what he said.
Wait a minute. Who started that? Who said it first?
Rodman.
It was Dennis Rodman. How come Michael? Wait a minute. Well, Michael Jordan accepted Rodman on the team despite him being on the bad boys, him not shaking hands. I'm just saying.
What?
Dennis Rodman started that whole thing with Larry Bird, and nobody has a problem with that.
Because Michael Jordan never said Larry Bird would just be another guy if he was black. He didn't say it. Isiah did.
No, my point
Isiah did.
Is
I know Rodman said it, and it's because they talked about it. Because, dude, look, these things all happened. And if the 3 best players on earth, the 3 most respected basketball players on earth, all are like, nah, I don't want to hang out with that guy for a month. No thanks. Sorry. Chuck Daly could have quit.
Right. He didn't. And Isiah is the only player, you just mentioned it, who beat Michael Bird and
He didn't beat Michael
Magic
Bird.
in his
don't
career.
do that.
He's the only guy who ever did that in his prime.
Great. Magic the year they beat the Lakers, Magic got hurt in game 2.
It doesn't matter.
It does matter.
Come on, man.
It's what's called a fact. It's what's called a fact.
No, you can nitpick, though. You're going to take away the Warriors championship when they beat LeBron and then without Kevin Love and Kyrie? Do you count that championship?
I count it, but I also hold on, Rob. Just let me explain how it works. I count it, but I also paint the true context of every team they played, that run to the playoffs, didn't have their starting point guard. Kyrie got hurt in the first round. We can go through every one of them. Kevin Love didn't play at all in the series. That's how the story is told. So don't come here and tell me, well, he beat Larry Bird. No, he didn't. Okay? No, he didn't. When they won the championship, Larry Bird didn't play. They didn't play the Celtics the second year. The first year, he didn't play. So that didn't happen. So don't say it happened because it didn't happen. Okay. Yes, they beat Jordan that year, but then when Magic was in the finals, Byron Scott got hurt. Magic got hurt in the second game. So don't tell me what happened when it didn't happen. Did he win 2 championships?
It did happen.
Yes.
Was Magic on that team? Magic was on that team.
He didn't play in game 4.
No, Doug, you can't nitpick. If a guy plays poorly, would you say, well,
he got hurt. He didn't
Yeah, but
play in Game 4.
Did he play at all? Did he play Game 1? Did they play Game 1?
Played Game 1 in Detroit. Game 2, he got hurt in the opening minutes. He barely played in Game 3 because he couldn't move, and he didn't play in Game 4.
Wait a minute. What was he doing in Game 3 if he was hurt? He was hurt, Doug. Why would he play?
He's Magic Johnson.
No,
he
if you're hurt, if you play, it counts. If you play, it counts.
What you said was he's the only one to beat Bird and Jordan and Magic to win a championship. He didn't beat Bird. Bird didn't play. Okay? Didn't play. Didn't play at all. Was hurt. Okay? When he beat Magic. I'm painting the true context. And yes, he didn't play on the Dream Team because they didn't want him on the Dream Team. And I'm sure Michael Jordan didn't want him on. And I'm sure that's why he said no Isiah Thomas questions. But there wasn't anybody of those powerful guys that stood up and said, I'm not going unless unless Isaiah's on that team, including his former coach, Chuck Daly, including his former best friend, Magic Johnson.
Doesn't make it right because somebody doesn't like Doug. We all work with people every day that we don't like or who aren't good people. It doesn't stop us from getting the job done. It's a cop-out. It's the weakest cop-out by those guys. Stop it. It's a weak cop-out.
No, it's not. Look, Isiah never offered up, hey, maybe when he was asked, I don't know why. Yes, you do, Isiah. Anyone who's ever had a conversation with Isiah knows he'll go into explanation. I didn't organize the freeze out of Michael Jordan in his rookie All-Star game. Of course you did. Everybody knows you did.
You go through the stories. Go read the stories. They all say it never happened. Go show me where they all say it didn't happen. I've read every single story on it. That's always what was talked about, Doug. You have proof that it happened? Because I've talked to people. Nobody has come forward to say that it didn't happen.
Listen,
and it was supposed to be Bird and Isiah.
Perception is reality. And the perception was it wasn't just that he didn't shake hands. It was that they left while the game was still being played in their home arena. Okay? It wasn't when the Celtics lost and they were walking off. They were protected because they were in Detroit where the cost of living's going up and the chance of living's going down, right? That wasn't this. That's in their home shot. In the home. It's an accurate shot too. In their home arena.
I lived there 22 years. A cheap shot.
I'm right. And so when you're right, the cost of living not going up. So when you walk off, when you're walking off the court and you specifically duck away from shaking hands with the team that beat you after he waited for you the last 2 years, whether or not he said they're not true champions or whatever, you shake a dude's hand and you walk in, and that's what a champion does. He didn't, and that's the only thing that he's ever suffered. Like this idea that Isiah Thomas has suffered because he wasn't on the Dream Team. That's a load of crap. He got to run the CBA. He bankrupted that. He got to run the Raptors.
No,
they didn't do
all
anything.
That other stuff. I'm talking about basketball, Doug.
It is basketball.
He's on the top 50 players of all time, and he's in the Basketball Hall of Fame.
Rightfully so.
Don't tell me about the CBA and he ran that into the ground. I'm talking about as a player.
No, but listen, I think he was a great player. And this obviously hurt his reputation as a player historically. It did. But my point is that Isiah wants you to believe that this has hurt him for the rest of his, post-playing career, and that's not true, right? In spite of a lack of success as a front office executive previously, he got to run the Knicks and ran into the ground, right? So that didn't happen. This is
so was it him or did Phil Jackson run the Knicks into the ground as well?
Well, if you want to get into the Knicks thing, Isiah Thomas signed Eddie Curry. PM. Isiah Thomas signed Eddie Curry, who had a heart problem, and agreed to not give him a physical, and had an uninsurable contract. He made some of the worst decisions ever. But again, that doesn't take away from the fact he was a great player. Okay, but they didn't want him on the team. And you and I, we don't get to choose necessarily who are around on a daily basis. Michael Jordan did. Magic Johnson did. Larry Bird did. And they all chose, look, we'll have a better time if Isaiah's not around. We don't like him. And sadly, life can be, in fact, what are you making? What are you doing?
Who, me?
Yeah, are you making coffee or something? What's going on?
No. I'm just walking around as you talk. I'm just walking. It's all good, man.
Last thing, as bad as Isiah looked, you got to agree with me, Scottie Pippen looks even worse, no?
Yeah, Scottie looks bad. I mean, You mean just from the standpoint of like not like getting a surgery and waiting and hurting his team, or just signing that terrible contract that he never should have signed?
Well, I'll actually tell you, I don't think it was a terrible contract at the time. It was too long, but
that's what made it bad. It was the length, Doug. It's not about the money; it's the length. 7 years is a ridiculous contract, and even his representative tried to talk him out of it. It was stupid.
Okay, but that wasn't the part that he looks bad. He looks bad over the not going into the game when it's his team because the play's not run for him. And then you come back to him 20 years later and he said he would have done it again. I mean, that's just, I don't, it's indefensible. I don't know how Scottie Pippen thought people would take it, but it doesn't go over well.
But that's how a lot of people have a hard time acknowledging, or even Michael Jordan couldn't admit that to go against Jesse Helms back in the time when he had a chance to make an impact with Harvey Dent. He didn't even admit that. He still was like, I was too busy focused on basketball. He wasn't that focused on basketball because he had time to do a lot of other things, including make a movie with Bugs Bunny. So I just don't buy the whole Jordan was so focused and he didn't want to. He even in his own documentary, Doug, go back to, I think it was the first one where he said he ripped Wilmington, North Carolina, his hometown, and said it was racist and he couldn't wait to get out of there. That's in North Carolina where Jesse Helms was a senator and you could have made change. Does that make sense to you?
No, but I don't know if, look, there are ramifications for making, and it was a different era. And though he was criticized then, it wasn't an era in which every athlete felt the need to be, politically active. They just didn't. So I agree with you. My only issue here is this is Jesse Helms, a card-carrying racist who let everybody know what his feelings were. This wasn't some ordinary race with two guys who just happen to be Republican and Democrat. That's the difference to me. Anybody who would be against you for going against Jesse Helms, I wouldn't want them on my team or wouldn't want them to buy sneakers from me. Rob, great stuff. Check out Inside the Parker. It's the baseball-only podcast on the Herd Podcast Network, or check out The Odd Couple, which, of course, begins at 4 o'clock on the West, 7 on the East, with our other good pal, Chris Broussard. Rob, great stuff. Thanks for arguing with me.
Doug, always great. And don't forget, I got a new column on Deadspin.com once a week. Appreciate it, Doug.
Rob Parker trying to single-handedly reinvigorate Deadspin.